In a sleepy village nestled between the curve of forested hills and the arms of distant mountains, there ran a river, ancient and ever-changing. It began as a trickle in the highlands and grew fuller as it carved through soil and stone, breathing life into everything it passed. Villagers called it Mother of Water, for she was both gentle and fierce. The elders told stories of how she changed her shape each decade, altering her path like a woman shedding skins.
You can never step into the same river twice,
they'd say,
for the water moves on, and so do we.
Amara was only 6 when she first sat by the river's edge. She had just lost her mother, a quiet woman, who had sung lullabies that echoed like ripples, and the grief was too heavy for her small chest. So she wandered to the river, and there, in the rush and rhythm of the current, she found a strange comfort. It didn't speak, yet it listened. It didn't hug her, yet it held her. From that day on, Amara made it a habit to sit by the river every morning. She would dip her toes, toss in pebbles, braid flowers into long vines and let them drift away. She grew up with the river, and to many, she seemed as much a part of it as the reeds and the stones. The villagers began calling her the girl by the river. She didn't mind. She liked being known for something that flowed. As she grew older, she noticed how the river changed. Each rainy season, it swelled with rage, turning brown and wild, snapping bamboo along its edges and swallowing bridges without remorse. Then, when the sun returned, it would calm, and sometimes it was almost like a different river altogether. Its banks would widen, the fish would disappear, and the old footpaths she followed would be gone, lost to the new bends it created. At first, these changes confused her.
Why does it have to change?
She asked her grandmother. Her grandmother, a woman who had lost more things than she could count, smiled softly.
Because it must. That is its nature. And maybe it's ours too.
Amara thought about that. By the time she turned 16, she felt it in her bones, the shift. She no longer wanted to follow the same routine, wear the same dresses, or say yes when her heart whispered no. The girl who once collected river shells now filled notebooks with questions. Why was she expected to marry young? Why could her brother leave the village but not her? Why were girls expected to bend, while the river was allowed to break things and keep flowing? She began to speak up, first in small protests, then in louder ones. Some villagers shook their heads, saying,
She's changing too much.
But others, often the young girls, watched her with wide eyes and silent hope. Change came with a cost. Friends drifted away. Her father grew cold. The elders no longer welcomed her into ceremonies. Even the riverbanks seemed more distant, the familiar stones now buried beneath new silt, as though nature itself was reminding her, nothing stays the same. But Amara no longer feared change. She left the village at 18. With only a bag of clothes and a notebook filled with dreams. She boarded a bus that led to the city. There, she faced chaos, loneliness, and failure. But also, freedom, reinvention, and courage. She studied, worked, protested, wrote, and loved. There were nights she broke down crying, missing the soft lull of her river. But she reminded herself, even the river has its storms. Years later, she returned, no longer the girl by the river, but a woman who had walked through fire and flood. The village had changed too. There were new houses, more concrete, fewer trees. The river's path had shifted again, cutting deeper into land that had once been a playground. She stood at its edge, barefoot once more, and smiled.
Hello, old friend.
The water didn't recognize her, not fully, and she didn't recognize the river either. But they greeted one another like kindred spirits, both changed, both survivors of time. She knelt and touched the water. It was cold, familiar, new. Life, like a river, is always changing, and embracing that flow is essential to truly live. Growth often means releasing people, places, beliefs, and even old versions of ourselves. Not as an act of betrayal, but as a step toward becoming who we're meant to be. Nature teaches us to honor our evolving paths without apology, knowing that returning to familiar places will feel different because we, too, have changed. This transformation is a gift, making us wiser, braver, and uniquely shaped by the paths we've carved. The end.